All right, moving on very quickly to our next discussion. Kenya will be holding a presidential election rerun on October the 17th, thanks to the Supreme Court that annulled the August the 8th presidential elections, saying that it wasn't conducted in accordance with the country's constitution.
Now, the election was therefore declared null and void, but that is no news. In a ratio of courage, 4 of the 6 justices found that irregularities had marred the integrity of the vote. This move has been applauded by many as a boost for democracy in Africa and a lesson about independence for all judiciaries.
Now, this Kenya example lays the foundation to our discussion on the need for an overhaul of the Nigerian judiciary to truly make it independent in the face of corruption allegations, delay in the administration of justice, conflicting judgment, and high cost of litigation, among others that have tainted the reputation of the Nigerian judiciary over the years. Well, joining us is a lawyer, Liboros Oshoma. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
In looking at what the Supreme Court in Kenya did by overturning the election, of Uhuru Kenyatta, many people have said this is the ideal judiciary that we want to see in Nigeria, where the judiciary is brave and courageous to take the right move, even if it might even, seem unpopular to many people.
Yes, I completely agree. Every society wants to see a brave and independent judiciary. And what the Kenya Supreme Court had done is to show, that not just braveness, but, a departure from that conservatism that the judiciary is known for. If you remember, in 1979, we had opportunity to break away from conservatism, but the judiciary had to find a way to wriggle out. If you remember the 12 to 3rd, mathematical arrangement, and it always hinged on public policy. Oh, let's not the cost of conducting another elections and all of that. In 2003, it was the same thing. Unfortunately, it was 2 to 4, or 4 to 2, just like you had the Kenya Judicial Supreme Court judgment. In that judgment in 2003, the lead judgment was read by Nikitobi. And then Oguntade wrote a dissenting judgment. We became the popular judgment, though. That's, look, some results were cancelled. And that the position of the majority judges were that it did not substantially affect the outcome of the election. But the Kenya judges are not saying, look, whether it's substantially or did not. So the issue is, did it affect the outcome of the election? And what is it? In democracy, elections, elections are the only way that allows people to participate in government. And so if there is any infractions, the best thing to do would ask to do it all over again.
No matter how minimal.
No matter how minimal. That's what they have done now.
Yes, let's look at Kenya. The Kenya judiciary really used to be highly corrupt in the past time, but then the government decided to reform the system, and now it's, in fact, one of the best in Africa, and proof is now there for everyone to see what happened just a few days ago. So why is the reform of Nigeria taking so much delay? Because many have said, of course, that if a judiciary of a country is not upright, nothing will work.
First and foremost, we need, I said this, I don't know whether it was on this platform, sometimes back, when the president complained that the judiciary was his headache. And I said, when you have a headache, you take analgesic. And so what were his panacheas to ameliorate this headache? And with the CNA and then the invasion, and I said, look, this won't help. You cannot, reform the judiciary without using some parts of the judiciary. And let's start from the way judges are employed in Nigeria. That's a very big problem. And then also the way cases are assigned. We still assign cases manually. That's another problem. And so if I know that I can, as a chief judge, I can talk to a judge who will do my bidding, and then I sign a matter to him. But if you know that these cases will be assigned randomly through balloting anyway, you can't determine the table that the particular case will fall on. And then disciplinary measures also. Lord Dennis said, when a judge sits on trial, the judge is on trial. What it means is, if you're trying a particular matter, the entire world is trying you to see how you're going to fare with this. And so disciplinary measures, in Kenya, disciplinary measures is taken seriously. Here, what do you have? You have an NJC that is all powerful, but 80% of members nominated by one man who is the Chief Justice of the Federation. And so if you have a compromised Chief Justice of Federation, what you're going to have is, a compromised NJC.
And that's why people are saying that part of the reforms they want to see, if the Nigerian judiciary will be reformed, is to maybe separate, to remove the NJC from the purview of the CJN.
Yes, you can expand. And then also, another area I was going to is the NJC. These are members of the NJC, majority of them, if not all of them, are judges who also sit, in their various courts. And so they meet on ad hoc basis. And so if you expand the scope, we've had judges that have served meritoriously, at the bench who are retired but not tired. If you expand the scope to include these people as consultants to look over the affairs, of fellow judges, it will give them opportunity to work, on daily basis instead of having to meet on ad hoc basis, once in a while. And as I speak to you, there's so many petitions, those written by lawyers, those written by litigants. And so you also need to break down these disciplinary committees, to the barest minimum where they can be accessible and be able to take decisions timeously.
Now, the CJN, once let's look at happens, the CJN, Water on Justice Water on has set up a 13-man steering committee to look into the judicial reforms in the country. So what do you think the committee should be looking at right now? First off, some are saying that they should call for a public discussion, ask the public to send in their memoranda and involve the civil society.
And he already has a report from the 13-man committee.
Our problems are beyond setting up committees. We've had reports. Why don't you just take up all the ones that you have, dust them up, and, hold public discussions on them. Even as we speak, I know that, agencies of government, including NBA and some other parastatals, are taking steps to sit and discuss how do we reform. And so too much discussions, how much time do we really have? And so if we're sincere and ready to roll, we already have enough reports. Look at the reports that we have. Even some of these recommendations that we'll discuss every day, are in the public domain. And so what are the low-hanging fruits that we can take in terms of disciplinary measures? And so also, how do we ensure that those that are recruited to the bench are truly worthy of the bench? I'm not saying that there are no fantastic judges. There are so many. I don't want to mention names here. There are some judges that if you are, as a lawyer, you're not ready in their court, then forget it. It's either your matter is struck out or, they'll compel you. But in that same society, in that same environment, when you have hard-working judges, you also have some lazy ones. And so how do you compensate the hard-working ones? So at the end of the day,
lazy ones, not necessarily corrupt ones.
No, you have the lazy ones. Yeah. You have not necessarily corrupt. Okay. Then you have the corrupt one who sees the bench as an avenue to make money. And so, but if it's all a flat table where it is difficult for you to isolate and compensate. Compensatory also, it's very necessary.
Okay. You speak to a very, very vital point there. Some people have said, look, if you're going to talk about reforming the Nigerian judiciary without looking seriously at the welfare of the judges, indeed, you may not go far, because that might just be at the root of
that's why I faulted this government. Seriously. You have a vice president who came to Lagos State as an attorney general and he saw the rot in the judiciary. And he was able to, you know, make a lot of inroads. And Lagos judiciary became, a point of reference for other judiciaries in various states. And so at the center, why is it difficult for them to even start some of these reforms? Take, for example, you say constitutional amendments is difficult, but there are some reforms that you can introduce using practice directions. You know, so if you, these are what I call low-hanging fruit. Welfare of, before now, judiciary in Lagos pre-1999, judges will write with candles, with lantern. And so also, they were not, you know, when you are also not convinced of your future, a secured future, you work hard at the end of the day you retire, you are back to your mud house in the village because your salary couldn't even afford a home. So
can we say that the judges and of course members of the judicial system are just victims of the Nigerian society?
Yes. They are all victims of Nigerian society. And so gradually we had turned governance and government offices to a means to an end. And so in the state of lawlessness, it becomes illegal to be law-abiding.
Exactly.
And that's basically what is happening. And until you begin to, you know, wade the big stick, and before you wade the big stick, what they did in Lagos, introduce practice directions, use practice direction to reform the ones they can reform, up the stake, raise the bar in terms of rewards and compensation, make the job attractive, and then wade out the unserious ones. The rest that you have would sit tight because they know that there's a paradigm shift.
Now, the storming of judges, was it late 2015, 2016? Where some judges are alleged to, you know, have been involved in some shady or corrupt practices. Incidentally, even the present CJN is being, you know, his integrity is being questioned too. Well, he has said he's ready to be investigated. But some would say that you can actually not use these isolated cases. Some use the word isolated to actually, you know, put a blanket on the Nigerian judiciary as really corrupt.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you because if you do that, what you're telling the ones that are upright is that, look, you know, you are all the same anyway. And so you're not encouraging the ones, you know, that dare to be different. And so that's why for me, and I still maintain since that time, that it will be difficult for you to fight the rot in the judiciary without involving the judiciary. As bad as the NJC is, you know, you can set targets, set agendas. After all, the confirmation of the CGN is still rests within the ambit of the National Assembly. And, you know, so when you begin to do it in isolation and you forget the fact that you are going to use lawyers and judges to prosecute these cases, most especially when you have an Attorney General who also doubles as the legal advisor to the cabinet. So you're going to have, you know, situations where everybody is going to, you know, try to hold on to its own. And like Shehu Sani once said, when you see the executive protecting his own seriously, the legislatures are going to protect theirs to give the impression that, look, we are not corrupt. The judiciary is going to do the same thing.
And then at whose detriment, really, yes.
You know, so that's why the way to go, you find a way to involve the stakeholders in the judiciary.
All right, Barrister Liberous Oshoma, thank you for your analysis. Of course, we have the issue of technicalities again frustrating the judicial system because of time.
They have always talked
we have to
always talked about, you know, judges should not allow technicalities to defeat the end of justice. But it depends on the way you look at it.
And it makes you wonder what, you know, how effective the administration of criminal justice
system is.
That has nothing to do with the judiciary, but the prosecutors and those that are to implement, you know, the rules as laid down by the administration.
All right, Liberous Oshoma, thank you for coming to the studio.
Pleasure,
thank you for your analysis on the show.